There might be an input in there. There might be some math after that. And then there'll be a return. If you do the trick of drawing a line to go all the way from the beginning to the end, you better make sure that it goes behind the blocks rather than in front of it. Otherwise, don't do the trick. Sometimes I regret showing y'all things, but it makes it so much faster to draw. What do? After you draw the line, you right click and do send to back. Now, just for my own personal pleasure, if I have a function call, I color it, and then I color the call to the function. Just helps me eyeball it. And then a while loop goes into decision block. There'll be two sides. One side has got, whatever's inside the loop, everything that's indented inside the loop. So a couple of math calls. Make sure that whatever you put inside the while loop is indented. Once it stops being indented, it no longer goes under the while loop. So in your last indented statement, that's when it goes back up to here. Again, I'm doing it the cheaty way, drawing all the lines at once. I right click on the line, do send to back. Then I have some kind of print statement on the no. And then a stop. Like that. So this one should have only taken 2 columns, although, if you decide to do something like this, it's okay, But if you're going to draw more than 2 columns, make sure you have a line going from the bottom one up to the top. Or, as an alternative, you can use a little circle as a stop. Go down to a circle and then draw another circle up at the top. Kind of like a teleport in a game, like that. But it's just as easy to draw a line, from here to here as to use those circles. If I was going to a whole new page, I would use the circles. Like that. I hope that makes sense. I hope you have the code in mind. You've seen this several times now. This looks almost exactly like the flowchart we drew on the day before the exam, the Thursday before the exam. And then it looks like the one we did on the Thursday after the exam when I showed you how to do it. And now I have an arrow going the wrong way. Go away. Okay, that's better. You can also right click on an individual shape and do bring item forward. If I said you got something in the wrong shape, you can just right click on it and do change shape and pick the new shape. Now that's not right, so I need to undo that. I guess I'll upload this and put it in the notes. It's not too far from what we did in the exam. No dead ends. A lot of people put the function call in a straight line. Your entire flowchart was just a straight line, a linear shot from beginning to end. No while loops. The function was defined inline in the code. Okay, anyways, redraw that, and if you get it perfectly right, you can still make an A on that portion of it. 90 or above. And since a lot of people got really good grades on the written portion of the exam, on the multiple choice and stuff like that, it'd be nice to see, everybody get A's on this part as well. And I think we've covered it enough that you ought to be able to do it. So when you do your teacher evals, be sure to put nicest teacher ever. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I shouldn't say prejudicial things like that, or else you'll put that on the eval. Tried to bribe us, promised us pizza. Yeah. Any questions over that, y'all? Okay.
And how to think like a computer scientist and that thing, does it say more about flowcharts than that? Or?
Yeah, but not a whole lot. I wish it did. You know, periodically as you hit a new topic, it'll do a flow chart. But what I need to do is, I've come up with PDFs, no, PowerPoints in the past over flow charting. I'll find the one that I already did and upload it, and if it needs any enhancement, so it should cover all this. I'll get that in there by Wednesday.
And for mine says 0 right now, so does that mean you haven't graded it yet?
Right. If you don't have any feedback, then it will be there very quickly. I hope by the end of the day. Oh, I'm in the wrong page. No wonder this is all looking wrong. We're not learning Java. So I think we've covered functions pretty well. You can write two kinds of functions. Well, there's more than two kinds. I guess there's 4 possibilities. You can write functions that don't take values and functions that do take values between the parentheses. And you can write functions that don't return values, or you can write functions that do return values, or any combo of those. So here's one that doesn't take any parameters. Here's one that does take a parameter. One is called say hello. All it does is say hello. The other one says happy birthday, but we want to pass in their name. So up here between the parentheses, I'm going to put a name parameter, which is a variable that exists only inside this function. Both of these are void functions. They don't return anything. This is a function with no parameters. So when you call it, you don't put anything between the parentheses. This has one parameter. So when I call say hello, I don't put anything in the parentheses. When I call say birthday, I do have to pass in something, or else I'll get an error. It's expecting a variable. I have to fill in some data that will fill in that variable. So I'm going to add an argument to it. It's Chuck Norris's birthday. I think since this one involves Chuck Norris, I'm going to call it Chuck. chuck.py. I keep saying chirk. Okay. Ooh. Here's a typo. I made this an uppercase B and this a lowercase b. So it says hello and happy birthday, Chuck Norris. And my voice may give out. I am actually sick. Don't let me walk over to you and cough on you. So here's a variable that doesn't take any parameters, but it's going to return something. Kim Kardashian just got robbed in Paris by Ryan Lochte, or however you say his name. So we're going to say, I'm kidding, it wasn't Ryan Lochte. Supposedly they stole a $4 million necklace. Why was she wearing one? This sounds like an insurance scam to me, but whatever. Alrighty.
Well, if it's true, at least they knew what to steal.
Yeah. Alrighty, so since this one returns a value, I need to store its result in a variable. So when I call it, well, I'm going to add a comment to it. This is a fruitful function. Returns a value. So I'm going to say name is equal to getName. And whatever gets returned here is passed back and stored in this name variable. And now I'm going to wish her a happy birthday too. Getting robbed is quite a birthday present. Here we go. If I was going to flowchart this, how many columns at a minimum would this need? Yeah, 4. 1 for each, because we have 3 function definitions. And then when the code stops being indented, this would be a start-stop. Now Python is one of the strangest language is in one aspect. It's an incredibly good language, but that's that you can return more than one value. This one's going to be called getToNames. And it returns who are we going to make a return? Yeah, Kanye. And then it's going to return a second value as well. Now honestly, I've never seen another language that would do this. But then when you call it, you have to store its return values in 2 variables. So first name, comma, last name is equal to getToNames. Honestly, I never use this feature of returning 2 values. For one thing, it's not really portable, meaning that you couldn't take it to another language and implement it very easily. Java, C++, C#. You can do it, but you kind of have to go around your elbow to get to your nose, or some little colloquial saying like that. All right, if you're stuck, if you're getting a syntax error, let me know. We don't need to, like, go for 40 minutes and then find out that you were stuck. Pardon me?
Oh no, I clicked on something.
Okay. Alrighty, so these are all fruitful functions. I guess we could call this one a doubly fruitful function. We're not going to say that, but this is a fruitful function. It returns a value. If it's a void function, you can skip the return statement, but not when you're drawing it. You still have to put a return oval at the end of the function definition. So that's why typically I go ahead and put a return statement even if it's not strictly necessary. The code would work if I took that out. And the way it works is that it assumes that when it finds the next unindented line of code, it automatically returns. And it's not the only language that does that. Java does that as well. But I like seeing the return statement just because if I'm asking you to draw a flowchart, it reminds you to put a return at the bottom of the... I think it makes the code easier to read. Makes the code longer on the screen, so if I was trying to condense everything to fit on one screen, I might skip it, but probably not.
On that, the last one that you put on there,
Yeah.
it says too many values to unpack.
Ooh. Sounds fun. Okay, go back to your code. Kanye, do it like this. We're actually returning two things. So Kanye end quote, comma, start quote. Anybody else need help? Good. Need help?
Oh no, I was talking to him, but when I do it, it just doesn't show up at all. Like, there's no syntax there.
Oh, you're seeing some output.
I was like trying to do the comment thing.
We have to call, for the problem, yeah, if we want to say birthday to poor Kanye, he's feeling really left out. He's going to tell us that, he'll let us finish, but he wants a birthday. So, we could do something like this. Say birthday, but since say birthday only expects one parameter, we can't put first name comma last name. But he's one of those people who are so famous that we're just going to say birthday first name. Or we could do this, say first name, and then a plus sign, and then a space surrounded by double quotes, and then plus his last name. And this will get turned into a single parameter. Because it adds all these strings together, concatenates them. So after this concatenation is done, it's passed into say birthday, and it's treated as one variable. One piece of data at that point.
Where did we define first name and last name?
Well, we didn't define them, so to speak. That's almost not a Python term. But we created them right here.
Oh, you did it.
And the reason I'm kind of pushing back on the idea of the word define is because some languages you have to define every variable. You have to do this up at the top. String first name, string last name. And in Python you don't do that. You can just use it right away and it creates it on the spot. So it created first name and it created last name in order to accept the two values that were being returned.
Well, so it assigned both of those just to get two
Right. First name got filled with Kanye, last name got filled with West. So it's like, we have a delivery guy, but we ordered 2 pizzas, and so the first pizza went here and the second pizza went here. So some functions take more than one argument. If we wanted to, we could have changed, say birthday to accept a first name and a last name, but then we would have had to go back and modify all the other calls. So there are some built-in functions. I think we've hit this before, but it's worth mentioning again. I almost feel like, well, why not? We'll just tack it on to the bottom of this. A is equal to the absolute value of -7. ABS is a function. It's one of the built-in ones, so it gets a pretty color in the editor. A really sophisticated editor would also color, say, birthday, because it's a function too. It's just one we defined. And then B is equal to A to the power of 3. What other functions are there? Oh, max. C is equal to the max, and we're just going to list several numbers. So that'll be 4 when it's done. Not // that's C in Java. This will be a 7 when it's done, because that's what absolute value does. Just returns the magnitude of it, ignoring the sign. Max also works on strings as well as numbers. So we could do this. The maximum value of the first name, comma, the last name. And let's go ahead and print that one out. It'll be interesting to see whether it considers Kanye or West to be the max. West. So it's doing it alphabetically. K is less than W as far as it's concerned. If we had a name that started with a Z, it would be the max. Now max you can mix up as many parameters as you want, as many arguments as you want. Here I called it with 4. Here I called it with 2. It's kind of cool that they made it flexible enough to accept multiple numbers of parameters. And you can do that in your code as well, but it's a much more complicated process than the way we've defined it up here. And it differs pretty significantly based on which language you're using. So that returns West. There's also a min. So if we did min on first name and last name, we'd get Kanye. So if we do minimum on 1, 2, 3, 4, it's going to equal a 1. If we do a minimum on first name, last name, it'll return Kanye because Kanye comes before West. Now the way I have structured this data, and it's a coincidence, max is returning the last value each time, and min is returning the first value each time. But that's just a coincidence. If I rearrange this data, if I put 4 in the middle and 1 in the middle, it would still return the same values. This dude loves his turtles. Exercise. Write a function that draws this, draws that, draws the other. And we've done ones like that. This one would give me a little bit of a pause. This one wouldn't be that hard. That's cool.
Oh.
Let's do that one. So we need to import our turtle library. And let's just call our turtle T.
Do this on a new file or the same one?
I'm just tacking it onto the same one. You could put it in a new one if you wanted to. I mean, thematically, it's ridiculous for us to have all this in one file, but this is just playtime.
Can you just make everything into like a quote?
So when you do T is equal to turtle dot turtle, make sure the second T is capitalized. All right, so we're going to need a variable that indicates how long that side is that it's drawing. So let's just call that side. We're going to set it equal to 200. Now we need some kind of loop. While side is greater than 0, and you don't need the parentheses. I'm going to erase the parentheses. Some languages need that. Go forward that many pixels. Turn left 90 degrees. And then let's subtract some from the side. Side is equal to side minus 2.
Oh, I must say go forward.
It's possible this will work. So do you see why that's working? In the loop, it keeps removing, it keeps subtracting a little bit from the length that it's going to draw. So it draws, 200, and then it turns left, but it subtracts 2, and that now side is no longer equal to 200. Now side is equal to 198. Then it draws another line that's 198, and it turns left. And then we subtract 2 from side again, so side is now 196, and so on. And we keep doing that as long as side is a positive number. Once side hits 0 or negative or whatever, then we escape the loop. But we didn't implement that as a function. We just, which I guess was the point of this chapter. I don't know. We could though. Nah.
I don't know.
Oh, it feels trippy. I feel like blink a little really fast most of the time.
Mr. Thompson.
Yeah.
I don't.
Well, that's cool.
Well, I didn't mean. to
I
do
don't
that.
think it's going 90 degrees.
Yeah, I think your angles.
Check this. Maybe a major angle equal to side as well.
Yeah, left side.
Left 90.
Oh, sorry.
That's cool, but not what you want.
It doesn't know where to go.
How'd you know it knows where to go?
It's not exactly how many.
How about our spirals go up?
That's it. Define.
Okay. What our homework is going to be is based on this. But we're going to do two things.
Imagine having to walk up that many steps.
Well, let's do the first part, and then I'll just make you do the second part. We're going to go ahead and move this draw square spiral into its own function. So above the import statement, I'm going to do DEF draw SQ or square, something like that. Draw square. And we're going to pass in two variables, T and then side.
Since we made T equal our turtle, does that matter?
Well, we're going to pass T in as a parameter. And so move everything that's in your while loop up under that function declaration. And then call that function.
I copied and pasted it.
Yeah, what I did, if you want to copy and paste a whole bunch of lines without using the mouse, move your cursor to the top line and then hold the shift down cursor like that. Then you can cut and paste. Control X for cut, Control V for paste. So we're going to pass in the draw square and the 200. Okay, so now that's a function, except it's not going to work because I didn't indent the stuff under the function. My mistake. So now I'm going to highlight all that stuff that should be part of the function, and I could either hit the tab key or I can go to Format, Indent Region, and that moves it all over. And lastly, because I like return statements, I'm putting a return there. Okay, so the assignment, the homework. Keeping in mind that the angle for a triangle is 120, and the angle for a hexagon is 60. Add two functions. Drawhex, draw triangle, and drawhex. So we will excerpt this part right here and put it in the PDF for the homework.
That return word on there makes it stop showing.
You're right. I broke it. What's wrong with my return statement?
It's like underneath the while loop and not underneath the function.
Exactly. It's part of the while loop. So as soon as it does that, and that, it bails out. So it only drew one side. And we need to unindent the return statement.
The triangle one is called draw triangle.
And then change your code to test each one. So, comment out draw square and add a call to draw triangle. And then comment out draw triangle and add a call to draw hex. Alright guys, let's stop here. We'll make a Dropbox for your in-class, whatever you typed. If you want to stay, for the next 20 minutes and work on your homework, that's cool. Or if you want to bail and work on it at home, that's also cool.